Welcome back to History Amnesia. How did Alan Wilson and Baram Blackett find King Arthur II? According to Adrian Gilbert, in his book The Holy Kingdom, Alan Wilson and Baram Blackett examined the real practice and real customs of 6th century British kings, and it became evident the real locations of King Arthur's court. Notice I said locations. You see, in order to conduct the business of a king in the 6th century, you must have a court. Wilson and Blackett certainly realized that during this period there were many. Arthur traveled throughout his kingdom in these wheel forts, with castles being relay stations and lookout posts. So they began their search in Caerleon. They followed the histories, triads, poems, and Mabinogi tales to get here. A more strategic location was just north of the ruins of the Roman city of Isca, Lodge Hill. Here at Lodge Hill is a hill fort that leads into Gwent, a very strategic location. Gilbert states the histories recorded that the principal court of King Arthur was at Caerleon, and that Wilson and Blackett had no doubt that this was King Arthur's court. But to prevent his court, his knights, his entourage from extinguishing the area's resources, this was not the only court. So Wilson and Blackett continued their search for King Arthur II in other places. In Cardiff, a hub of activity, lies a grassy hill fort now part of Caerleon. It was once called Caerleon, which means yellow fortress because of the sulfur pits nearby, but to any King Arthur follower, it is also known as Camelot. And next to Caerleon is Lisvane, meaning stone court. Gilbert also stated that in ancient times the area was known as part of the Comote of Cibor, which could also be spelled C-Y-B-W-R. C-Y means a mutual action or something done together, and B-W-R could be related to brord, which means table. Together it would translate to the mutually together table, a perfect description of King Arthur's legendary round table, where he ate and held meetings. Gilbert explains the correct dating of the battles of Badon, 550 AD, and Camelot, 570 AD in Wales. He states that modern historians do not accept this, nor do they see Arthur as a Welshman. Wilson and Blackett have stated this much as well, and have always been open to outside academics, non-British, to analyze their findings. Following the Songs of the Graves poem, they found at St. Peter's Church a site identified on maps as Pass of the Soldier, and Arthur II was referred to as Arthur the Soldier. A large stone slab, identified first by Brian Davies, was there. The poem's description of the place being windy, wet, and narrow was spot on. Wilson and Blackett purchased the property, and in the 90s had a proper excavation done by Dr. Eric Talbot. They found the present building dated to the 13th century. However, it stands on top of other buildings dating back to the 2nd century. Talbot's findings confirm the written histories. The Arthur stone was found here. 4 to 5 feet long and shaped like the letter T. The stone had one arm broken off. It also had a Latin inscription in all capital letters, Rex Arturus Fili Maricus, which means King Arthur the son of Maurice. It looked as if they'd found the actual burial site of King Arthur II, but the archaeological community treated them with hostility. The BBC was sent to examine the stone and telephoned a professor at Glasgow University, who immediately told the BBC that the stone was fake. The professor stated that he had seen photographs, and he determined the writing was not 6th century. Now Wilson and Blackett were puzzled because they hadn't sent anyone photographs of the stone at that time. So the producer went to examine similar 6th century stones, and as far as he could tell, the style of writing was identical. The professor then changed his story and labeled Wilson and Blackett as forgers. Dr. Eric Talbot, from the same university who was more familiar with Welsh stones, stated, quote, "The discovery of the Arthur stone at St. Peter's has led to much controversy. The writer is, he believes, the first person with relevant qualifications to have examined the stone at first hand. In the writer's opinion, the inscription it bears is one in accord, by wearing and lettering, with the period of Arthur. Unquote. Had the Arthur stone been found during the excavation, there'd be no doubt that it wasn't forged. But because it was found before the excavation, they were open, unfortunately, to criticism and doubt. All we have is the word of one academic who was experienced with Welsh stones and who agrees by the wearing and lettering that what Wilson and Blackett found was an authentic Arthurian period stone. When we put King Arthur I and II in their correct place and order, we can see that King Arthur I was in the Midlands and King Arthur II in Glamorgan and Gwent. For those who continue to attempt to discredit Wilson and Blackett, look into Thomas Cart, 1747, and the numerous researchers between then and the time Wilson and Blackett picked up the research. Unfortunately and strangely, both Wilson and Blackett died within months of each other and are no longer with us. But perhaps one day their dream of a proper archaeological investigation will be done by an unbiased team and uncover the evidence needed to prove what happened to Britain's once and future king. Please hit the like and subscribe button and hit that notification bell so next time a video is posted you'll be notified. Thanks for watching History Amnesia.